The first time I met her, I was only 8 years old. My father was stationed at the Orion Outpost, a research station orbiting a half-terraformed world known as Avaron 3. It was a place of storms, copper-colored skies, and ancient ruins that the scientists insisted were natural formations, though no child alive could have believed such a thing. On one of those long days when the grown-ups were too busy with their work to notice me, I wandered away from the compound. I remember carrying a small pack of biscuits, the kind my father said tasted like chalk, but to me were treasures. I slipped into the canyon not far from the perimeter fence, chasing the sound of water trickling where it shouldn't have been. That's when I found her. She was small, no taller than me, with skin that shimmered like molten bronze in the sunlight. Her eyes were the color of dawn, 2 shades at once, pale gold around the iris and deep violet closer in. Her clothes weren't clothes at all, but some kind of thin, flowing material that moved like smoke yet never tore on the jagged rocks. She was frightened of me at first, shrinking back, but curiosity overcame fear. I remember breaking a biscuit in half and offering it. She took it, sniffed it with suspicion, then smiled when she tasted it. Her teeth were sharp, too sharp for a child. We couldn't speak the same language, but that didn't matter. She pointed to herself and made a sound I tried to repeat. It came out wrong, and she laughed, a bright sound that carried over the canyon walls. From that day on, we met in secret. I never told my father or the other researchers. She showed me strange things. Glowing insects that floated like lanterns, stones that rang like bells when struck. Once she pressed her hand to mine, and for a moment I felt heat pulse between us like a shared heartbeat. Then one day she didn't come. I waited for hours in the canyon, calling out the clumsy version of her name I had learned, but only the wind answered. Weeks passed. I searched and searched, but she was gone. My father was reassigned soon after, and Avaron 3 faded into memory. I grew up, joined the fleet, and convinced myself she had been an invention of childhood imagination, or at most, some local feral child. Until the day she returned. Middle. I was 32 when my fleet carrier, the Resolute, was sent back to Avaron 3, now fully colonized and strategically important. I hadn't thought of the canyon or the girl in years, not really. My life had been consumed by duty, battle drills, and the politics of human expansion. But when the royal delegation of Avaron 3's native population boarded the Resolute, I felt time collapse into itself. There she was. Taller now, radiant in flowing garments edged with silver thread. Her bronze skin glowing under the ship's sterile lights. Her eyes still carried the sunrise within them. And when she saw me among the rows of officers, her step faltered. For a fraction of a second, the poised mask of royalty cracked, and I glimpsed the little girl who had once eaten chalky biscuits with me in a canyon. Her name was Princess Lyra of the Avarani Dominion, daughter of the High Matriarch. She had not been some wandering child. She had been royalty even then, hidden from foreign eyes during a turbulent time in her people's history. That evening I was summoned to the reception chamber. She had requested me by name. "I remember you," she said softly when we were alone. Her accent elegant but clear in the common tongue. The human boy with the strange food. My throat tightened. "I thought I imagined you." Her smile was both sad and warm. "And I thought perhaps you had died. My people forbade me from returning to the canyon. They feared the humans would discover me. I waited. Every day I waited. The years between us vanished. I saw the child in her again, waiting by the canyon walls, and guilt struck me. Guilt for leaving, though I had been powerless. But time had changed more than our appearances. Her people were now negotiating delicate treaties with the Terran Alliance, and as princess, she was at the center of it all. Political marriages, alliances, and centuries-old rivalries pressed in on her. She was no longer just a girl in a canyon. She was the keystone of interstellar peace. Was tinged with tension. Whispers followed her. Advisors eyed me with thinly veiled suspicion. For a princess to spend so much time with a human officer, it was scandalous, dangerous. Then came the night of the attack. The Resolute was docked above Averron 3 when insurgents struck, rebels from a rival Averani clan who opposed the alliance with humanity. They infiltrated the ship, targeting the princess. I found her in the chaos, cornered in a corridor by masked warriors. Without thinking, I drew my weapon. The fight was brutal, close quarters, but somehow we survived, backs pressed together as the alarm screamed around us. When it was over, when the last attacker lay unconscious, she turned to me, trembling. "They will never allow this, you know," she whispered. "What do you mean?" I asked, catching my breath. "For us. For this." Her hand brushed mine. "I am bound by duty to my people. And you? You belong to the stars." I wanted to tell her it didn't matter, that we could defy the galaxy if we had to. But I saw the truth in her eyes. Our bond was real, but the weight of empires pressed down on her shoulders. Still we didn't part. Not yet. Ending. The treaties were signed weeks later. The Averani Dominion and the Terran Alliance entered into an unprecedented pact of mutual defense and cooperation. It was hailed as the beginning of a golden age. But behind the celebrations, Lyra and I stood at a crossroads. She was to return to her homeworld, to ascend as heir to the matriarch's throne. I was to remain with the fleet, patrolling the edges of known space. On the final night before her departure, she called me to the canyon, the same canyon where we had first met as children. The place was unchanged, though the colony lights now glowed faintly on the horizon. She stood where she had all those years ago, waiting. "You are the first memory of my life not shaped by duty," she said softly. "And perhaps the only one truly my own." I wanted to hold her, to beg her to choose me over duty, but I couldn't. I had grown enough to understand the weight she carried. To ask her to abandon her people would have been cruel. Instead, I took a biscuit from my pack, broke it in half, and handed it to her just as I had when we were children. She laughed through tears, accepted it, and pressed her forehead to mine. "Perhaps in another life," she whispered. "Or another world." Then she was gone, escorted back to her vessel, surrounded by guards and dignitaries. I watched her ship ascend until it vanished among the stars. Years have passed since then. I have fought battles, commanded ships, and carried the banner of humanity into the unknown. But in quiet moments, when the stars are still, I return to that canyon in my mind. I remember the girl who laughed at my clumsy words, the princess who stood with me against assassins, the woman who chose duty over love. And I keep one last biscuit, sealed and preserved, in my locker aboard every ship I serve. A reminder of the bond we shared, once forgotten as a child, returned as a princess, and carried with me for the rest of my days.